Empty shelves in Zimbabwe as economic crisis deepens. Welcome to the Bold African Voice, BAV, where we dive deep into the critical issues shaping the future of Africa. I'm Abdul Karim Kargbo, born and raised in Africa. Today, we're taking a closer look at the economic turmoil in Zimbabwe, from empty supermarket shelves to skyrocketing inflation. We'll break down how this crisis is impacting the lives of millions and what lessons it holds for the rest of Africa. Stay tuned as we analyze the deeper roots of Zimbabwe's problems and what needs to be done to turn the tide. Zimbabwe's retail sector is facing an unprecedented crisis, with several major retailers and wholesalers forced to close branches amid a series of economic challenges. This situation has led to widespread shortages of essential commodities, including cooking oil and sugar, in various residential areas of Harare. Retail sector challenges. The crisis in Zimbabwe's formal retail sector has been exacerbated by the rapid expansion of the informal economy, which has significantly eroded the market share of formal businesses. Additionally, the proliferation of smuggled goods, often sold exclusively in US dollars, has intensified competition, making it increasingly difficult for formal retailers to maintain profitability. Major retailers such as OK Zimbabwe, Spar, and TM Supermarkets have warned of potential store closures if the government insists on the use of an official exchange rate they deem overvalued and damaging their competitiveness. The devaluation of the Zimbabwe Gold (ZG) currency has further strained the retail sector, with the ZiG losing nearly 80% of its value on the black market since its introduction. Economic outlook. Despite the current challenges, the World Bank projects a positive economic outlook for Zimbabwe in 2025, with growth expected to increase to 6%, up from 2% in 2024. This anticipated recovery is largely attributed to a rebound in the agriculture sector, which is expected to grow by almost 13%, driven by improved maize and tobacco production. The mining sector is also expected to exhibit strong growth, bolstered by rising gold prices and new investments in lithium production and iron and steel manufacturing. Regional comparison. Zimbabwe's economic challenges are not unique to the country. The southern African region is enduring its worst hunger crisis in decades due to a devastating drought triggered by the El Niño weather phenomenon. Over 27 million people across southern Africa are affected, with countries like Lesotho, Malawi, Namibia, Zambia, and Zimbabwe declaring national disasters. The drought has severely impacted crop production and livestock, leading to widespread malnutrition, especially among children. Forward-looking approach. To address the current crisis and foster sustainable economic growth, Zimbabwe must implement comprehensive reforms aimed at stabilizing the retail sector and the broader economy. Key measures include enhancing currency stability. Implementing policies to stabilize the ZiG currency and restore public confidence is crucial. This may involve aligning the official exchange rate with market realities and reducing reliance on the black market. Supporting formal retailers. Providing financial assistance and incentives to formal retailers can help them compete with the informal sector and smuggled goods. This support could include tax relief, access to affordable credit, and assistance in adopting modern retail technologies. Strengthening agricultural resilience. Investing in climate-resilient agricultural practices and infrastructure can mitigate the impacts of future droughts and enhance food security. This includes promoting sustainable farming techniques and improving water management systems. Encouraging investment. Creating a conducive environment for both domestic and foreign investment is essential for economic recovery. This involves addressing issues such as corruption, improving infrastructure, and ensuring policy consistency. By adopting these measures, Zimbabwe can work towards stabilizing its economy, revitalizing the retail sector, and improving the livelihoods of its citizens. Political turmoil and governance challenges. While economic reforms are essential for Zimbabwe's recovery, political stability is equally crucial. The ongoing political unrest, particularly the recent calls for President Emerson Mnangagwa's resignation by a group of Liberation War veterans, has added another layer of uncertainty to the country's already fragile situation. These veterans accuse the president of nepotism, corruption, and mismanagement, particularly in handling the economic crisis. Their calls for resignation reflect the growing frustration with the government's inability to address economic woes and its failure to rein in corruption. The war veterans, who played a pivotal role in the country's liberation struggle, have considerable influence, and their criticisms carry weight among Zimbabweans. As the economic challenges deepen, there are fears that the country could face political unrest like the 2008 crisis, when widespread hyperinflation and unemployment led to mass protests. The government's handling of the situation and its response to calls for change will determine whether Zimbabwe can avoid further instability. The way forward lies in the government's ability to foster dialogue, address corruption, and create inclusive policies that appeal to all sectors of society. Additionally, strengthening democratic institutions and ensuring a fair electoral process will be pivotal for Zimbabwe's long-term peace and stability. Comparing Zimbabwe's crisis to other African nations. The challenges faced by Zimbabwe are not unique to the country. Several African nations are grappling with similar economic difficulties, exacerbated by poor governance, corruption, and external shocks. For instance, Angola, another southern African nation, has faced significant economic difficulties due to the decline in oil prices, the mainstay of its economy. Despite efforts to diversify its economy, Angola has struggled with high inflation, unemployment, and social unrest, much like Zimbabwe. The country's government has initiated some reforms, but challenges remain, including the need for more transparent and accountable leadership. Similarly, South Africa, the continent's most advanced economy, has faced years of stagnation due to political infighting, corruption scandals, and energy shortages, all of which have contributed to a decline in public confidence and economic performance. Looking at West Africa, countries such as Nigeria and Ghana have faced similar struggles with inflation and foreign currency volatility, although their economic outlooks have been somewhat more stable in recent years due to reforms in the oil and gas sectors. However, these nations still face significant challenges in terms of public sector inefficiency and corruption. Nigeria, for example, has seen dramatic fluctuations in the value of its naira due to external shocks and internal policy failures, exacerbating inflation and worsening the living conditions of millions. Ghana, while considered a beacon of democratic stability in the region, has also experienced inflationary pressures and growing public debt. The global context and external factors. Zimbabwe's economic crisis is also influenced by broader global trends, including the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and the global economic slowdown. Like many African countries, Zimbabwe's economy contracted significantly during the pandemic, with trade disruptions and reduced remittances from the diaspora exacerbating the situation. The global rise in commodity prices, especially food and energy, has also contributed to inflationary pressures within Zimbabwe, which relies on imports for many of its essential goods. Furthermore, the country's over-reliance on agriculture, particularly tobacco and maize production, has made it vulnerable to climate change. The ongoing drought in southern Africa, worsened by the El Niño phenomenon, has already reduced crop yields and exacerbated food insecurity. Zimbabwe, like many of its neighbors, must invest in climate-resilient agricultural practices and diversify its economy to mitigate the impacts of such environmental challenges. Forward-looking solutions for Zimbabwe. For Zimbabwe to recover from its current crisis, a multi-pronged approach is needed. The government must commit to long-term economic reforms that focus on diversifying the economy, improving fiscal management, and promoting private sector growth. This includes fostering an environment conducive to foreign investment by addressing the country's infrastructural deficits and providing incentives for businesses to operate in Zimbabwe. Additionally, addressing the country's economic mismanagement, corruption, and currency instability is essential. Zimbabwe must work towards creating a more transparent and accountable government. This could involve strengthening anti-corruption institutions and implementing policies to stabilize the local currency while addressing over-reliance on the black market. To regain public trust, the government must also commit to economic policies that prioritize the needs of ordinary Zimbabweans over political elites. International support and partnerships. The role of international organizations and neighboring countries will also be critical in Zimbabwe's recovery. The African Union, AU, and the Southern African Development Community, SADC, could play a vital role in mediating political conflicts and providing economic support. Zimbabwe's relations with international financial institutions, such as the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank, will also be crucial in securing funding for much-needed reforms. However, the country's historical challenges with international debt will require careful negotiation and fiscal discipline. In this regard, Zimbabwe should focus on fostering regional cooperation, tapping into trade agreements such as the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, and leveraging support from African financial institutions. To continue addressing the complex crisis facing Zimbabwe, a cohesive strategy involving economic, political, and social reforms is essential. The road to recovery will require the active involvement of all sectors of society, including the government, the private sector, civil society, and international partners. The steps taken today will shape Zimbabwe's future trajectory, and while the challenges are formidable, the country's vast resources and potential, if harnessed effectively, could allow it to recover and thrive once again. The role of Zimbabwe's diaspora. Another key factor in Zimbabwe's recovery process is the contribution of its diaspora. Over the past 2 decades, millions of Zimbabweans have fled the country due to economic and political instability. Many have settled in countries like the United Kingdom, South Africa, the United States, and Australia. These individuals often send remittances back to Zimbabwe, which have become an essential lifeline for families and communities. However, the impact of remittances is dwindling, as the ongoing economic decline, currency instability, and devaluation of the Zimbabwe Gold, ZiG, currency erode their purchasing power. Despite the challenges, the diaspora remains a crucial player in the country's recovery. Zimbabweans living abroad have a wealth of experience in various sectors, including business, healthcare, and education, that could be tapped into for national development. There is a growing movement among diaspora Zimbabweans to invest in local businesses and development projects, as well as to offer their expertise in rebuilding institutions and creating job opportunities. This could be part of a broader strategy to reverse the brain drain and foster sustainable development by promoting entrepreneurship and encouraging the return of skilled workers. The government could play an essential role in encouraging diaspora engagement by creating conducive policies that make it easier for Zimbabweans abroad to invest in the country. These policies could include tax incentives, the establishment of diaspora bonds, and improving the ease of doing business. Zimbabwe could also seek to harness its diaspora's financial resources for long-term development goals such as infrastructure projects, skills training, and job creation, which would be vital for stimulating growth in key sectors of the economy. Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and Zimbabwe's future. Zimbabwe's path to recovery also lies in aligning its national policies with the Global Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, which focus on addressing poverty, inequality, climate change, and other critical global challenges. By integrating the SDGs into its national development strategy, Zimbabwe could benefit from international support as well as help attract development partners who share similar goals. The country must prioritize clean energy, climate adaptation, and social protection programs to ensure the long-term well-being of its citizens, especially considering the effects of climate change, which disproportionately impact vulnerable communities. The SDGs also offer a framework for promoting gender equality and social inclusion, which are critical to achieving sustainable growth. Zimbabwe must address the entrenched inequalities that continue to affect women, marginalized communities, and rural populations. This includes improving access to education, healthcare, and economic opportunities for women and children, ensuring that no one is left behind in the country's development efforts. By focusing on the needs of its most vulnerable populations, Zimbabwe can build a more resilient society, capable of weathering future economic and environmental challenges. The importance of political reform. Political reform will be central to Zimbabwe's recovery, and a renewed commitment to democratic principles is necessary to restore public trust. While President Emerson Mnangagwa's government has made some attempts to initiate reforms, particularly in the legal and political spheres, critics argue that these efforts have been insufficient and often compromised by entrenched political interests. For Zimbabwe to break free from its current predicament, it must strengthen its democratic institutions and create an environment where transparent elections, free press, and accountable governance are the norm rather than the exception. The Zimbabwean people have long called for change, and now is the time for the government to act. This includes addressing the concerns raised by political opposition parties, civil society groups, and the general populace. If Zimbabwe is to emerge from its economic and political malaise, it will need to establish a more inclusive political system where the voices of all citizens are heard and corruption is actively tackled. Restoring public confidence in the electoral system, improving political participation, and ensuring judicial independence will be pivotal steps in strengthening Zimbabwe's democratic institutions. Regional cooperation, a path to economic recovery. Zimbabwe's economic and political stability is closely tied to the broader Southern African region. By strengthening its ties with neighboring countries and organizations such as the Southern African Development Community, SADC, and the African Union, AU, Zimbabwe can improve its prospects for recovery. Regional cooperation offers Zimbabwe access to broader markets, increased investment opportunities, and the potential for infrastructure development that could stimulate economic growth. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, which is the world's largest free trade area by the number of participating countries, provides a unique opportunity for Zimbabwe to reintegrate itself into regional and global value chains. By taking full advantage of the AfCFTA, Zimbabwe can improve its trade relationships and diversify its exports, which will help stabilize the economy. Collaborating with regional neighbors on issues such as energy production, trade facilitation, and agricultural development could also help Zimbabwe overcome its current economic challenges. The role of education and innovation in building resilience education will play a crucial role in Zimbabwe's long-term recovery and resilience. The country has a relatively high literacy rate, but it needs to invest heavily in improving the quality of education and skills development, especially in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM fields. As industries and economies become increasingly reliant on technology and innovation, Zimbabwe must ensure that its workforce is adequately prepared for the challenges of the future. Government and private sector investment in education, coupled with public-private partnerships, will be key to developing the skilled workforce needed to drive innovation. Similarly, fostering a culture of entrepreneurship and technological innovation will help Zimbabwe transition from its traditional agricultural-based economy to a more diverse and modern economy. Establishing innovation hubs, supporting startups, and encouraging research and development are crucial steps in building the economy of the future. As Zimbabwe grapples with its deepening economic crisis, the road to recovery remains a formidable challenge. However, through concerted efforts in political reform, economic diversification, education, and regional cooperation, Zimbabwe can begin to address its economic woes and move towards a brighter future. With the support of its diaspora, international partners, and a renewed commitment to sustainable development and democratic principles, Zimbabwe has the potential to emerge from this crisis stronger and more resilient than ever before. Rebuilding trust in the financial system. A critical aspect of Zimbabwe's recovery lies in restoring confidence in its financial system. Years of hyperinflation, currency devaluation, and the loss of trust in the Zimbabwean dollar led many to resort to foreign currency or informal exchange systems. While the introduction of the Zimbabwe Gold (ZiG) currency in 2024 was intended to stabilize the economy, its rapid depreciation on the black market has raised concerns about the sustainability of the country's monetary system. For Zimbabwe to regain control of its financial system, the government needs to implement more transparent and effective monetary policies. One key solution could be the gradual stabilization of the ZiG currency, with clear guidelines for managing inflation and restoring public trust. Strengthening the central bank's autonomy and reducing political interference will also help improve credibility. Furthermore, Zimbabwe must introduce regulations to curb black market activity and promote the use of the official currency. This could involve revising policies on foreign exchange controls, improving access to foreign currency, and facilitating smoother transactions between businesses and individuals. Zimbabwe's banks also need to modernize their operations and become more customer-friendly. Strengthening the digital banking infrastructure could provide more efficient and secure financial services for individuals and businesses. This would not only help bring the informal sector into the formal economy, but also foster financial inclusion, allowing for greater access to credit, savings, and investments. In the longer term, strengthening Zimbabwe's financial institutions could create a more stable environment for economic growth and attract both domestic and international investors. The role of civil society and media. Another vital component of Zimbabwe's recovery is the active participation of civil society and a free press. For too long, the country's civil society organizations, CSOs, have been marginalized or restricted, particularly those critical of the government. In order to foster an inclusive and transparent political environment, Zimbabwe needs to support the work of CSOs, which play an essential role in advocating for policy reforms, holding the government accountable, and raising awareness about the needs and concerns of ordinary Zimbabweans. The media also has an important role to play in this process. A free and independent press is crucial for exposing corruption, providing accurate information to the public, and offering diverse perspectives on national issues. Zimbabwe's media landscape has been heavily regulated and censored, which has limited its capacity to challenge political narratives. Reforms to allow for greater press freedom and protection for journalists would help to strengthen democratic institutions and increase public participation in governance. Furthermore, encouraging the growth of media outlets that focus on investigative journalism and public affairs would enable Zimbabweans to better understand the complexities of the economic crisis and the measures being taken to address it. A transparent media environment will help ensure that both citizens and foreign investors are fully informed about the country's progress and challenges. Youth engagement and empowerment. Zimbabwe has a youthful population, with over 60% of its citizens under the age of 25. This demographic represents both a challenge and an opportunity. On the one hand, the high unemployment rate, lack of job opportunities, and underdeveloped skills have contributed to widespread disenchantment among young Zimbabweans. On the other hand, the youth can be a driving force behind the country's recovery if they are empowered with the right resources and opportunities. Investing in youth development programs that focus on education, entrepreneurship, and technology will be crucial for Zimbabwe's future. Providing young people with access to vocational training, digital skills, and financial literacy will not only help them secure employment, but also enable them to create their own businesses and contribute to economic growth. Moreover, fostering a culture of innovation and creativity could help Zimbabwe leapfrog traditional development paths and embrace new sectors such as renewable energy, digital services, and agriculture technology. One potential avenue for empowering the youth is through the promotion of youth-led businesses and startups. The government can support this by providing seed funding, training programs, and incentives for young entrepreneurs. In addition, partnerships with the private sector, international organizations, and the diaspora could further expand opportunities for Zimbabwean youth. By engaging and investing in the youth, Zimbabwe can unlock a new generation of leaders, entrepreneurs, and change-makers who can help rebuild the nation. Strengthening the agricultural sector. Given that agriculture is the backbone of Zimbabwe's economy, revitalizing the sector should be a top priority. While the country has immense agricultural potential, poor infrastructure, lack of access to modern farming technology, and unpredictable weather patterns have hindered growth. As a result, Zimbabwe has struggled with food insecurity and is heavily reliant on imports to meet its basic needs. To address these challenges, Zimbabwe must invest in modern agricultural techniques, sustainable farming practices, and irrigation systems that can withstand climate change. Introducing climate-smart agriculture and diversifying crops beyond maize and tobacco could help increase food production and reduce dependence on imports. Moreover, the government must provide farmers with access to affordable financing and agricultural extension services to improve productivity and ensure that smallholder farmers can benefit from new technologies. A focus on agro-processing industries could also help Zimbabwe add value to its agricultural products, create jobs, and improve export earnings. By processing raw agricultural materials such as maize, tobacco, and cotton into finished goods, Zimbabwe could not only increase the value of its exports, but also generate new sources of income for its population. In this regard, the government should prioritize infrastructure investments such as rural roads, storage facilities, and transport networks to connect farmers with markets. As Zimbabwe navigates through its economic crisis, the road to recovery is fraught with challenges, but not without hope. A balanced approach that includes political reforms, economic diversification, and infrastructure development, combined with strong leadership and the active participation of civil society, could lay the foundation for long-term recovery. Strengthening the financial system, investing in the youth, and revitalizing agriculture are critical steps in Zimbabwe's journey towards stability and prosperity. The active involvement of the diaspora, regional partnerships, and international support will further bolster the country's recovery efforts. By addressing both short-term needs and long-term goals, Zimbabwe has the potential to emerge from this crisis stronger and more resilient. Revitalizing the manufacturing sector. Another critical area for Zimbabwe's economic recovery is the revitalization of the manufacturing sector. For decades, Zimbabwe's manufacturing industries have been in decline, heavily impacted by both economic instability and an uncompetitive exchange rate. Many factories and production facilities have shut down due to the high costs of raw materials, energy shortages, and a lack of sufficient investment in technology and innovation. Reviving the manufacturing sector is essential for creating jobs, reducing dependency on imports, and boosting the country's export capacity. Zimbabwe must prioritize industries that add value to raw materials, such as food processing, textiles, and chemicals. With its rich natural resources, Zimbabwe has the potential to become a key player in regional and global supply chains for various manufactured goods, provided it improves its infrastructure and reduces the cost of doing business. To foster a thriving manufacturing sector, the government must focus on creating a business-friendly environment, with a focus on reducing bureaucracy and providing access to affordable financing for small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs. These SMEs are often the backbone of the manufacturing sector and can play a key role in job creation and economic growth. Additionally, it is vital for Zimbabwe to invest in technological innovation and automation within the manufacturing industry, which can enhance productivity, improve quality, and reduce production costs in the long run. Harnessing natural resources for sustainable growth. Zimbabwe is endowed with vast natural resources, including minerals such as gold, platinum, and diamonds, as well as vast reserves of coal and lithium. The mining sector remains one of the few stable sources of revenue for the country and continues to attract foreign investment despite the broader economic challenges. However, Zimbabwe's vast natural wealth has not always been an asset for the majority of its population due to mismanagement, corruption, and a lack of investment in community development and environmental sustainability. For Zimbabwe to fully harness its natural resources, the government must establish more transparent and accountable systems for managing resource extraction. The revenues generated from the mining industry should be used to finance national development projects, including infrastructure development, healthcare, and education. Moreover, it is essential for Zimbabwe to ensure that the benefits of its natural wealth are shared equitably, particularly with communities directly affected by mining operations. Additionally, Zimbabwe should consider diversifying its mining industry to include value-added activities such as refining and manufacturing. Instead of exporting raw materials, Zimbabwe could look at processing minerals locally to create a more diversified and resilient economy. This approach could also help Zimbabwe capture more value from its mining sector, create jobs, and improve its trade balance by increasing the export of finished goods rather than raw commodities. Improving healthcare and social services. For Zimbabwe's recovery to be truly sustainable, it is crucial that the country addresses its health and social services infrastructure. The healthcare system in Zimbabwe, like many other sectors, has been severely underfunded for years, with a lack of essential medicines, medical equipment, and skilled healthcare professionals. Many Zimbabweans rely on private healthcare or seek medical treatment abroad, a costly option that exacerbates social inequality. To improve healthcare access, the government must prioritize health sector reforms that focus on both infrastructure and human resources. This includes investing in hospitals and clinics, ensuring the availability of essential drugs, and improving healthcare education and training programs to develop a skilled workforce. Moreover, the government must focus on affordable healthcare policies that cater to the needs of all Zimbabweans, particularly the most vulnerable communities. In the long term, Zimbabwe must aim for universal health coverage, ensuring that all citizens, regardless of their socioeconomic status, can access basic healthcare services. Strengthening social protection systems, such as pensions and unemployment insurance, is also necessary to help mitigate the impact of economic shocks on ordinary people. These measures can significantly reduce poverty and inequality, ultimately contributing to a healthier and more productive workforce. Investing in sustainable infrastructure development is at the heart of Zimbabwe's long-term recovery strategy. The country's infrastructure, ranging from transport networks and energy systems to digital connectivity, has been in a state of disrepair for years. Poor roads, unreliable electricity, and inadequate water supply systems are some of the key challenges facing businesses and households in Zimbabwe. To address these challenges, Zimbabwe must focus on both the rehabilitation of existing infrastructure and the development of new, modern systems. Investments in renewable energy sources, such as solar and wind power, can help reduce the country's dependency on unreliable electricity grids, while also contributing to global sustainability efforts. Similarly, improving road networks and railways will not only support the mining and manufacturing sectors, but also enhance regional trade and investment. Digital infrastructure is another area that requires attention. With the growing importance of technology in the global economy, Zimbabwe must ensure that its digital infrastructure is up to par. This includes improving internet access across the country, especially in rural areas, to facilitate e-commerce, education, and innovation. By investing in digital technologies, Zimbabwe can position itself as a regional leader in the digital economy and foster a more inclusive, tech-driven economy. Fostering regional integration and global trade. Zimbabwe's economic recovery also depends on its ability to engage more effectively with regional and global markets. The African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, established in 2021, offers a significant opportunity for Zimbabwe to enhance its trade relations with other African countries, facilitating easier access to larger markets for its goods and services. Zimbabwe must take full advantage of this trade agreement by improving its export capacity, enhancing the quality of its products, and reducing non-tariff barriers to trade. Moreover, strengthening ties with regional neighbors through organizations such as the Southern African Development Community, SADC, can help Zimbabwe access support in areas like infrastructure development, trade facilitation, and regional security. This could help Zimbabwe not only stabilize its economy, but also increase its competitiveness within Southern Africa. The country must work towards improving its business environment to attract foreign investment, while also promoting intra-regional trade to boost economic growth. Zimbabwe's recovery from its economic crisis will require coordinated efforts across various sectors of society, including government, business, civil society, and the diaspora. The road ahead is challenging, but by focusing on comprehensive reforms, strengthening key industries, investing in infrastructure, and embracing sustainable development practices, Zimbabwe can begin to rebuild its economy and restore hope for its citizens. While the path to recovery will not be easy, the opportunities for growth are significant, and with the right policies in place, Zimbabwe has the potential to overcome its current challenges and emerge stronger and more resilient. Promoting entrepreneurship and innovation. One of the most important factors for Zimbabwe's economic recovery is fostering a culture of entrepreneurship and innovation. The country's economy has been traditionally reliant on agriculture and mining, but the rapidly changing global economy presents new opportunities for growth through entrepreneurship in the technology, creative industries, and services sectors. Young Zimbabweans, in particular, have shown a remarkable ability to adapt to digital technologies, with many young entrepreneurs turning to e-commerce, app development, and digital marketing to create new opportunities for themselves. The government can play a pivotal role in encouraging entrepreneurship by creating an enabling environment for startups. This includes reducing red tape and providing easier access to credit for small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs. Additionally, programs that offer mentorship, networking opportunities, and access to market information could help young entrepreneurs thrive. By focusing on innovation and creating a supportive ecosystem for business, Zimbabwe can nurture a generation of entrepreneurs who will drive economic diversification and create jobs. In the long term, promoting a knowledge-based economy that encourages research, development, and innovation will be crucial for Zimbabwe. This could involve partnering with universities, research institutions, and the private sector to foster innovation in sectors such as clean energy, biotechnology, and information technology. A greater emphasis on innovation can help Zimbabwe transition from a resource-dependent economy to one that is driven by knowledge and technology, which can enhance the country's competitiveness on the global stage. Leveraging Africa's continental initiatives. Zimbabwe's recovery is closely linked to broader continental initiatives, especially those spearheaded by the African Union, AU, and regional organizations like the Southern African Development Community, SADC. In addition to the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, which aims to create a single market for goods and services across the continent, the AU's Agenda 2063 offers a long-term vision for the continent's economic integration and development. Zimbabwe should actively participate in these initiatives, aligning its national policies with continental goals such as infrastructural development, sustainable industrialization, and the reduction of poverty and inequality. Zimbabwe's strategic location in southern Africa gives it a unique advantage in terms of regional trade. By improving transport corridors and facilitating the movement of goods across borders, Zimbabwe can become a vital trade hub in the region. The country must also strengthen its participation in regional organizations, working with its neighbors to enhance cooperation on issues like energy, water resources, and climate change. Additionally, Zimbabwe should take full advantage of the opportunities provided by the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, and other trade agreements that facilitate preferential access to international markets. By improving the quality of its products and aligning with international standards, Zimbabwe could significantly increase its exports to the United States and other international markets, boosting its foreign exchange reserves and fostering economic growth. Environmental sustainability and green growth. In an era of increasing climate variability, Zimbabwe's economic recovery must prioritize environmental sustainability. The country is highly vulnerable to the impacts of climate change, including droughts, erratic rainfall, and extreme weather events, which affect agriculture and water availability. This presents a pressing challenge to the country's food security and economic stability. However, the environmental challenges also present an opportunity for Zimbabwe to adopt green growth strategies that focus on sustainability. By investing in renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and hydropower, Zimbabwe can reduce its reliance on fossil fuels and improve access to energy in rural areas. In addition, investing in sustainable agriculture, water management, and forest conservation can help the country mitigate climate risks and protect its natural resources for future generations. To accelerate the transition to a green economy, Zimbabwe must incorporate environmental considerations into its national development plans. This could involve implementing policies that promote energy efficiency, waste management, and the use of green technologies in manufacturing. Moreover, Zimbabwe could seek to tap into international climate financing, such as the Green Climate Fund, to support its climate adaptation and mitigation projects. By embracing sustainability as a core principle of its development, Zimbabwe can build a resilient economy that is less vulnerable to the shocks of climate change. Enhancing Zimbabwe's global image. As Zimbabwe seeks to recover from its economic challenges, rebuilding its global image will be essential for attracting foreign investment, tourism, and international partnerships. For years, Zimbabwe's reputation has been tarnished by political instability, human rights concerns, and economic mismanagement. However, the country has the potential to reshape its image by focusing on reform, good governance, and human rights. Diplomatic efforts to improve relations with key international players, including the European Union, the United States, and neighboring African countries, can help Zimbabwe access financial aid, trade deals, and investment. Furthermore, Zimbabwe's rich cultural heritage, natural beauty, and vibrant tourism sector offer opportunities for attracting tourists and investors. By promoting its potential as a stable and welcoming destination for business and leisure, Zimbabwe can tap into new sources of income and stimulate economic activity. Restoring investor confidence is another key step in enhancing Zimbabwe's global image. A commitment to rule of law, transparent governance, and sound economic policies will signal to international investors that Zimbabwe is a place where business can thrive. Efforts to improve the business climate, protect intellectual property rights, and ensure that foreign investors are treated fairly can help foster a climate of trust and cooperation. Zimbabwe's economic crisis, while severe, presents an opportunity for the country to rebuild itself and chart a new course for the future. With the right policies, leadership, and commitment from all sectors of society, Zimbabwe can overcome its challenges and emerge stronger and more resilient. The journey to recovery will require a focus on diversification, innovation, and sustainability, along with a renewed commitment to good governance and democratic reforms. As the country navigates these challenges, the active participation of the diaspora, the private sector, and international partners will be vital for creating a prosperous future. By aligning with regional and global initiatives, strengthening its financial system, and empowering its people, Zimbabwe can unlock its potential and build a brighter tomorrow. Strengthening the social safety net. A key component of Zimbabwe's recovery must include the strengthening of its social safety net. With widespread poverty, high unemployment rates, and the adverse impacts of inflation on household income, many Zimbabweans are living on the edge. To address these challenges, the government needs to provide targeted social protection measures that can cushion vulnerable populations from the negative impacts of economic instability. Programs such as cash transfers, food aid, and public works initiatives are vital for reducing immediate suffering and ensuring that basic needs are met. Expanding social protection programs can improve the quality of life for many Zimbabweans, especially those in rural areas, the elderly, children, and people with disabilities. Social safety nets can also foster social cohesion by reducing inequality and addressing poverty, which remains a significant challenge in the country. Additionally, The government should focus on promoting financial literacy and inclusion, ensuring that Zimbabweans are equipped with the skills necessary to manage their finances, save, and invest in ways that improve their economic well-being. Programs that provide financial education, especially to women and young people, can empower individuals to make better financial decisions and create sustainable livelihoods. Addressing regional disparities and rural development. Zimbabwe's economic recovery must also include a focus on regional equity, as many rural areas are disproportionately affected by poverty, unemployment, and lack of access to services. While urban centers like Harare and Bulawayo may benefit from infrastructure investments and government initiatives, rural areas often face neglect, contributing to migration to cities and exacerbating rural-urban inequalities. To promote inclusive development, the government must prioritize rural development programs aimed at improving infrastructure, education, healthcare, and economic opportunities in these areas. Rural infrastructure projects such as improved road networks, electrification, water supply, and sanitation are critical for enhancing access to services and enabling agricultural and non-agricultural business activities. Support for rural smallholder farmers, who form the backbone of Zimbabwe's agricultural economy, must also be a priority. This could include providing access to affordable inputs like seeds, fertilizers, and machinery, as well as creating markets for their produce. In the long term, promoting agribusiness, including the processing of agricultural products, can help create job opportunities and increase income for rural households. Beyond agriculture, there is potential for rural communities to diversify their economies. Rural tourism, renewable energy projects, and rural entrepreneurship can provide new sources of income and contribute to the country's overall development. The government should foster a supportive environment for rural entrepreneurs through training programs, access to finance, and partnerships with private sector actors. Addressing gender inequality. Gender equality remains a significant challenge in Zimbabwe, with women and girls often facing limited access to education, healthcare, economic opportunities, and political participation. Gender disparities are particularly pronounced in rural areas, where traditional norms and practices can restrict women's rights and opportunities. To ensure that the economic recovery is inclusive and sustainable, Zimbabwe must make concerted efforts to address gender inequality. This includes increasing women's participation in the labor force, ensuring equal access to education and healthcare, and creating policies that support women entrepreneurs. The government should strengthen laws and policies that protect women from gender-based violence and discrimination, as well as ensure that women have equal rights to inheritance and land ownership. Investing in women's empowerment is not just a moral imperative, it also makes economic sense. Research has shown that countries with greater gender equality tend to have higher levels of economic growth, as women contribute to the workforce and drive innovation. In Zimbabwe, empowering women could unlock significant economic potential, especially in sectors like agriculture, manufacturing, and technology. Promoting national dialogue and social cohesion. As Zimbabwe continues its journey toward recovery, it is essential to foster national dialogue and social cohesion. The country has faced significant political polarization, ethnic tensions, and divisions that have been exacerbated by the economic crisis. For Zimbabwe to heal and move forward, the government must create an environment where open dialogue, reconciliation, and inclusivity are promoted. This can be achieved through initiatives that bring together political parties, civil society organizations, the private sector, and the public to discuss key national issues. A national dialogue process focused on finding solutions to the country's economic and political challenges could help build consensus and promote unity. Ensuring that all Zimbabweans, regardless of their political or social background, feel heard and valued is crucial for fostering trust and social cohesion. Promoting national unity and healing from past injustices, such as the Gukurahundi massacre and other human rights violations, is necessary for long-term peace and stability. Truth and reconciliation commissions, public forums, and programs that address the needs of marginalized communities will help repair the social fabric and build a more inclusive society. The role of international partnerships and aid. As Zimbabwe seeks to recover from its economic crisis, international partnerships will be essential. The country's ability to access foreign aid, investment, and expertise can provide the financial and technical resources needed to address its challenges. International financial institutions like the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and regional organizations such as the African Development Bank, AFDB, can play a vital role in providing loans, grants, and technical assistance for projects in key sectors like infrastructure, agriculture, and education. However, international support must be accompanied by tangible reforms within Zimbabwe. For the country to gain the trust of the international community and attract investment, it must show commitment to good governance, human rights, and the rule of law. Zimbabwe must ensure that its international partners are reassured that their investments and aid will be used effectively, with measures in place to prevent corruption and mismanagement. In addition to financial aid, Zimbabwe should seek technical assistance in areas such as climate resilience, public health, and education. International expertise can help Zimbabwe develop and implement policies that are both effective and sustainable. Regional cooperation, particularly with neighboring countries, will also be important for addressing issues like trade, security, and regional infrastructure development. Zimbabwe's journey to recovery is fraught with challenges, but it is also filled with opportunities. By focusing on comprehensive reforms, strengthening institutions, and promoting inclusive development, Zimbabwe can lay the foundation for a prosperous future. The participation of all sectors, government, business, civil society, and the international community, is essential for the success of this recovery process. Addressing economic, political, and social inequalities, investing in the youth, empowering women, and ensuring environmental sustainability are crucial steps in building a resilient and inclusive Zimbabwe. As the country moves forward, the active engagement of all Zimbabweans, both at home and in the diaspora, will be essential for creating a better future for generations to come. The role of technology and digital transformation. In today's globalized world, embracing technology is essential for economic recovery and growth. Zimbabwe must invest in its digital infrastructure and promote digital literacy to harness the potential of the fourth industrial revolution. Technology can drive innovation across sectors, including agriculture, healthcare, education, and business, providing new opportunities for economic diversification and job creation. Digital transformation can also improve governance by enabling more transparent and efficient public service delivery. For example, digitizing government services and processes, such as tax collection, business registrations, and permit applications, can reduce bureaucracy and corruption and ensure greater accountability. Moreover, the government can use technology to enhance data collection, enabling better policy decisions based on accurate, real-time information. For the private sector, embracing digital tools such as e-commerce platforms, mobile banking, and fintech solutions can open new markets and provide access to finance, even for those in rural areas. As digital financial services grow, Zimbabwe can leapfrog traditional banking systems and extend financial inclusion, particularly among unbanked populations. Furthermore, investing in digital education and technical training will equip Zimbabwe's youth with the skills necessary for future industries. In this regard, partnerships with global tech giants, universities, and training institutions could help Zimbabwe develop a competitive digital workforce capable of competing in the global market. E-learning platforms, coding schools, and online entrepreneurship courses can ensure that the youth are not left behind in the digital age. Revitalizing the tourism sector. Zimbabwe's tourism sector holds significant potential for economic growth. With its world-renowned national parks, diverse wildlife, and cultural heritage, Zimbabwe has the capacity to become a leading destination for ecotourism and cultural tourism in Africa. However, the sector has been severely impacted by the economic crisis, political instability, and the global COVID-19 pandemic, which reduced international travel and tourism. To revitalize the tourism industry, Zimbabwe must focus on rebuilding its global reputation as a safe and attractive destination for tourists. This includes improving infrastructure in tourist areas, enhancing marketing efforts, and addressing concerns about safety and security. It is also crucial to promote sustainable tourism practices that preserve the country's natural resources while benefiting local communities. By diversifying its tourism offerings and exploring niche markets such as medical tourism, adventure tourism, and cultural heritage tourism, Zimbabwe can attract a broader range of visitors. Partnerships with international travel agencies and marketing platforms can help Zimbabwe reach new audiences and increase the visibility of its tourism attractions. Moreover, Zimbabwe can tap into the growing demand for ecotourism, positioning itself as a leader in the responsible tourism sector. The government should also prioritize investing in the hospitality sector by improving accommodation standards and supporting local businesses that cater to tourists. Training and capacity building programs for tour operators, hotel staff, and other service providers will be essential to ensure that the tourism experience meets international standards, addressing corruption and strengthening the rule of law. One of the most pressing issues for Zimbabwe is tackling corruption, which has long been a barrier to economic progress and good governance. Corruption has permeated many sectors, including government procurement, law enforcement, and public services, leading to the misallocation of resources, inefficiencies, and a lack of trust in state institutions. To restore confidence in the government and attract foreign investment, Zimbabwe must prioritize anti-corruption efforts. This involves not only strengthening anti-corruption institutions, such as the Zimbabwe Anti-Corruption Commission, ZACC, but also ensuring that those who are found guilty of corruption face meaningful consequences. Political will, transparency, and accountability must be at the core of Zimbabwe's anti-corruption agenda. In addition to combating corruption, the government must work to strengthen the rule of law and ensure that all Zimbabweans have equal access to justice. This includes reforming the judicial system to make it more efficient, accessible, and impartial. Ensuring that the judiciary is independent and free from political interference is essential for maintaining the rule of law and upholding democratic principles. In the longer term, fostering a culture of integrity and ethical leadership is essential. Zimbabwe must invest in programs that promote good governance and civic education, equipping citizens with the tools to demand accountability from their leaders and participate in democratic processes. By strengthening the rule of law and tackling corruption, Zimbabwe can build a more transparent and accountable government that serves the needs of its people. Building resilience in the face of climate change. As Zimbabwe's economy relies heavily on agriculture, the effects of climate change are a significant concern for the country's future. Droughts, irregular rainfall, and extreme weather events have already had devastating impacts on crop yields and water availability, threatening food security and livelihoods, particularly for rural communities. To address these challenges, Zimbabwe must implement policies and practices that promote climate resilience in agriculture and other sectors. This includes investing in drought-resistant crops, improving irrigation systems, and adopting sustainable farming practices that reduce environmental degradation. By promoting climate-smart agriculture, Zimbabwe can mitigate the impacts of climate change on its agricultural sector and improve the country's food security. Furthermore, Zimbabwe should prioritize disaster risk reduction and response strategies to help communities adapt to the changing climate. This includes building early warning systems, strengthening infrastructure to withstand extreme weather, and providing financial support for climate-vulnerable communities. The government should also explore opportunities for carbon offset programs and green investments to generate revenue while contributing to global climate goals. Investing in renewable energy, such as solar power, can also help Zimbabwe reduce its carbon footprint while improving access to energy in rural areas. By focusing on green growth and sustainability, Zimbabwe can address the dual challenges of climate change and economic development, while positioning itself as a leader in environmental stewardship. Zimbabwe's path to economic recovery is multifaceted, involving reforms in governance, infrastructure development, financial stability, and sustainable growth. By addressing the deep-rooted issues that have hindered the country's progress, Zimbabwe has the potential to transform its economy and society for the better. While the road to recovery will be long and challenging, the steps taken today, supported by a clear vision for the future, will lay the foundation for a more prosperous and resilient Zimbabwe. Through collective efforts from all sectors, government, business, civil society, and international partners, Zimbabwe can overcome its current challenges and build a brighter future for its people, fostering a culture of accountability and transparency. For Zimbabwe's recovery to be sustained, it is essential to foster a culture of accountability and transparency across all sectors. This starts with the leadership setting an example through honest, open governance and ensuring that all public institutions are held accountable for their actions. Transparent processes and policies are vital to rebuilding public trust in government and fostering long-term economic stability. To facilitate greater transparency, Zimbabwe can adopt modern technologies like blockchain to track government spending, public projects, and the distribution of resources. By making key information publicly accessible, the government can empower citizens, civil society, and businesses to hold public officials accountable. This would not only fight corruption, but also create a more participatory and informed society. Moreover, Zimbabwe must ensure that its election processes are free, fair, and credible. Strengthening electoral systems and maintaining a nonpartisan electoral commission will help restore confidence in democratic processes, which is a crucial element for fostering political stability and economic growth. Ensuring that all citizens can participate in the political process without fear or intimidation will enable the government to truly represent the people and ensure that policies reflect the will of the majority. The role of Africa's regional cooperation. Zimbabwe's economic challenges are not isolated, and addressing them requires regional cooperation and solidarity. In the southern African region, Zimbabwe shares many of its challenges with neighboring countries like Mozambique, Zambia, and South Africa. By working together with regional organizations such as the Southern African Development Community, SADC, and the African Union, AU, Zimbabwe can tap into the collective strength of its neighbors and leverage regional resources to solve common problems. For instance, strengthening regional trade agreements like the African Continental Free Trade Area, AfCFTA, will allow Zimbabwe to access broader markets for its goods, while also facilitating the flow of capital and investment within the region. These partnerships can also provide a framework for addressing cross-border challenges like climate change, migration, and regional security, ensuring that the entire region moves forward together. A path for African leaders. Lessons from Zimbabwe's experience. Zimbabwe's experience is a poignant reminder for African leaders about the importance of governance, accountability, and the need to balance political power with economic development. Africa's future depends on how its leaders handle the twin challenges of good governance and inclusive economic growth. Zimbabwe's struggles with corruption, poor governance, and economic mismanagement show the detrimental effects of neglecting these areas. African leaders must prioritize the welfare of their citizens and put in place policies that promote economic diversification, reduce reliance on single commodities, and focus on creating sustainable jobs and opportunities for their youth. They must also foster democratic institutions that ensure fair and transparent elections and promote freedom of speech and press. Moreover, African leaders must embrace regional cooperation, not just for trade and infrastructure development, but also to confront shared challenges such as climate change, security, and migration. By working together, African nations can harness their collective power to transform the continent into a prosperous and self-reliant region. Summary and key messages. In conclusion, Zimbabwe's recovery from its economic crisis requires a multifaceted approach that involves political reform, economic diversification, infrastructure development, and social inclusion. The key steps for the country include 1. Strengthening governance. Zimbabwe must prioritize the restoration of democratic institutions, transparency, and accountability in government. The fight against corruption and the promotion of good governance will be key to long-term recovery. 2. Diversification and innovation. The country needs to focus on diversifying its economy by investing in key sectors such as technology, manufacturing, and agriculture. Fostering innovation and entrepreneurship will help create jobs and reduce reliance on single industries. 3. Environmental sustainability. With the growing threats of climate change, Zimbabwe must embrace green growth strategies, including the use of renewable energy and sustainable agriculture, to build resilience against climate-related risks. 4. Regional cooperation. Zimbabwe cannot address its challenges in isolation. Regional integration through initiatives such as AFCFTA, along with partnerships with neighboring countries, will enhance trade, security, and sustainable development. 5. Empowering citizens. Fostering a culture of accountability and providing social safety nets will empower citizens to participate in their country's growth and ensure that vulnerable populations are protected. Advice to African leaders. To African leaders across the continent, Zimbabwe's experience serves as a call to action. The road to recovery is long, and the challenges are significant, but with commitment to reform, investment in the people, and a clear vision for the future, African nations can build a prosperous and sustainable future. African leaders must foster inclusive economic policies, invest in youth education and innovation, and promote democratic values. They must embrace transparency, combat corruption, and prioritize the needs of their citizens above political self-interest. By focusing on these key areas, Africa can harness its immense potential and ensure that it rises as a global powerhouse. For Africa to realize its full potential, the leadership must be bold, visionary, and willing to make difficult decisions that will benefit future generations. The journey towards economic prosperity and political stability requires determination, unity, and a commitment to the shared values of democracy, peace, and social justice. Thanks for watching The Bold African Voice, BAV. If you find this video insightful, don't forget to like, comment, and share your thoughts. Be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Together, let's continue the conversation on Africa's path to prosperity and peace. See you in the next video.